To drive the wheel assemblies, I've added two motors. Now, the other motor that we added earlier on had what we call a coupling. These motors do not have a coupling, so make sure you select the correct motor. Here we can see the area where the coupling would be. In this case, the shaft just goes straight into the motor. I've attached it in the same way, a couple of screws onto there, and then the other one onto the drive shaft itself. Now when I try to move the wheels, it looks as if after adding the motor, it's not working anymore. And the reason for that is that the shaft that goes inside to the motor, I applied an angle constraint. And the motor itself, which was brought in as a sub-assembly, acts just as a single component. If we find that in the browser, then we can see the name of the motor. And what I have to do is make that flexible. In other words, all the parts in the sub-assembly can now move. So when I drag on the wheel, it works correctly. I'd have to do that for the other motor as well, so right-click on that and select Flexible. So now both sets of wheels operate and work correctly. Next phase of the robot design is to add the Cortex microcontroller. This coordinates the flow of information and power in the robot, and all other electronic system components must interface to the microcontroller, so obviously a very important part of our design. In this case, I've added a couple of eye mates to those center holes and located that 4 holes in, 5 holes in from the left and a couple in from the right. You can actually slide it 1 or 2 holes on either side, I think, without causing any problems. I've gone ahead and added the necessary screws and nuts for the controller and for the battery straps at the back. Now, as I did before when I was working on these, I created sub-assemblies. Before we had that 832 by 250 for the frame. In this case, they are 832 by 500. I made one for the Cortex assembly and also one for the battery at the back. And you can see I've got 4 there to hold those battery straps in place. Now, one of the advantages of a digital model is that when I look at my model, I see there's some interference between the battery straps and one of those screws. So I've made a note of that, and we may have to move either the battery straps or the controller to solve that problem.